Bulavinaka, Namaste. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan, and as we have promised you that we will be going out of the studio as well to talk to the people that matter, the issues that matter to you based on the questions that you have been raising. Tonight, I've got a special guest again, Deputy Prime Minister for the government, the coalition government, also Minister for Trade, Cooperatives, Small and Medium Enterprises and Communications, Mr. Manoa Kamikamica. Mr. Kamikamica, thank you very much for appearing on Straight Talk.
Vijay, and thank you for inviting me to be on the show. It's a very well-renowned show in Fiji, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to just share what I need to share to the people of Fiji.
It's all about sharing to the people of Fiji and accountability and transparency, and we appreciate this. Let's look at the portfolios that you've been holding. We are now into getting into the second half of the year, and the new financial year about to start soon, with the national budget to be presented on June 30th. As Minister for Trade, Cooperatives and SMEs first, how much work has gone into the first half of this year?
Yeah, thank you, Vijay. I mean, there's been a lot of, to be fair, there's been a lot of work that's gone into the ministry since I got in. I didn't quite appreciate the level of desire for people to come and meet the minister and the ministry. There's been, I think, 16 years of people wanting to come and offer help, offering ways of doing things better. So since we started, there's been a lot of people reaching out, right? And so because of that, I mean, obviously we have our day jobs as well. It's been, it's fair to say that we work more than 8 hours a day. And on top of that, there's a lot of traveling. What I can say is Fiji is in a very good place at the moment, Vijay. Like in terms of relationships internationally, and the desire for a lot of the major countries to work with Fiji to try and develop economic opportunity, provide more access to communications, education, capacity building, these kind of initiatives. There's a significant level of opportunity out there, and that's certainly what I'm seeing. I've just come back from a 2-week trip offshore. Went to meet a club, if you like to call it. It's called the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPEF. And that club represents about 40% of the world GDP. And Fiji is in there as a partner. And so there's a lot of discussion around what all these countries can do. You've got USA leading that IPEF, and Japan, South Korea, India, Malaysia, Singapore, all the major economies. So there's a lot of opportunity. So one of the challenges that I have in my job is making sure that these opportunities are not just talk fests, that we convert them into real opportunity for Fiji. And certainly on the face of it, I think there's a lot that Fiji can do to benefit. And also, as part of the trip, I was out in the United Kingdom, meeting with the Commonwealth Ministers for Trade. We talked a lot about some of the transformative things that we can introduce in the Fijian in our economies. And Fiji is certainly well on the way there. The green economy, looking at circular economy, in other words, introducing recycling, all these kind of blue-green initiatives was discussed. Communications and banking the unbanked. Fiji is probably one of those countries that has progressed quite a bit. So there again, a lot of discussion around trying to connect up in terms of potential investment. The Commonwealth is starting to become a greater grouping. I didn't realize, but now the Commonwealth doesn't just include former colonies. They've opened it up to other economies, like-minded democracies. And so, that's been positive. One of the also things I thought I'd share, Vijay, is whilst I've been engaging with a lot of these very senior officials in the various governments, we're actually talking about Fiji's posture in terms of democracy, that we are now a genuine democratic country. And I talk about the repeal of the MIDA laws, talk about opening up of people can talk freely now. And it actually resonates very well with these international communities. So I think this new stance by the Fiji government and what we're trying to do to collaborate more, work together, there should be some opportunities forthcoming in terms of the country. That's on the trade side. The cooperatives and MSMEs, it's fair to say it's probably the most exciting part of the parts of the portfolio for me, because there's a big opportunity to really enhance the MSME, the people in that space. One of the things that we're working hard on is to try and make sure we have the right support structure, and that's going to take another couple of months to get together, working together. But at the same time, we're already trying to assist MSMEs where we can, and the hope is that once we have that formal structure in place, which may include a formal, maybe a possible legislation, those kind of things, subject to cabinet approval, we can actually have a real formal support structure for MSMEs. But at the same time, so one thing about the private sector is they just take the cue from government. So as soon as we started talking about MSMEs, cooperatives, you'll see BSP is already set up a initiative where they're training MSMEs, business aspirant, existing businesses, to develop their businesses further. FDBs, interacting a lot more. HFC, likewise, is doing a lot more. So again, government can do everything, but it's a pleasure to see the amount of collaboration that's now happening in the MSME cooperative space. At the moment it's about 19% of GDP. I'm hoping it will be about 30 or 40, even 50% of GDP in the next few years. If that happens, then we start developing a vibrant part of the economy.
You're saying the confidence is coming back.
Yeah.
There's a lot more business people are now talking openly what they want and what they're not happy with the minister.
Correct. Yeah. That's certainly. I find it. I'm one that's always welcomes constructive criticism, and so there's a lot of that's happening, and I'd like to think that we're listening and trying to sort of do something about it. The positive signals that sends internationally in terms of what we're trying to do is quite positive as well. And finally, on communications, Vijay, one of the things that we try to get going is the MIDA repeal. So that's a pleasure to see that's come to fruition. But on top of that, there's talk about introducing 5G in Fiji, which will transform communication, relooking at wirelessy, just in terms of the functions of wirelessy, obviously, and also, just looking at opening up, allowing some of the players to operate, more competitively, is probably the right word for it. And so, there's a big opportunity as well in the communication sector. A lot of industries like a lot of countries like Fiji, we can develop a services ICT communications industry and make it quite a larger part of the economy. So, as you know, we're already looking at encouraging BPOs into Fiji. Came off a call last night with after 7 with one large BPO operator that really wants to set up big in Fiji. They've already got, I think, 40 seats in the country. They're talking about 600 over the next 2 to 3 years. So these are exciting opportunities. So, overall, one of the things certainly our ministry is trying to do is to ensure that Fiji becomes more and more of a regional hub for the Pacific. And that means making sure that connectivity is world class. So that we already have a lot of those components in place. We'll trade a lot more with our regional partners. We've got an excellent national carrier that will allow us to connect up more in terms of with all parts of the Pacific. And so I think going forward, and Honorable Biman was again mentioning it yesterday, the creation of a genuine regional hub. And not the most important part of that, Vijay, is that's not a selfish desire so that Fiji benefits. It's a desire to actually ensure that by connecting up, we can actually all rise together. And I'll give you a very simple example. When I first got in, the Tonga had issues with their aviation. And so just through a few phone calls, we got the CEO of Fiji Airways, Andre, to talk to the operator in Tonga. We talked to the Prime Minister of Tonga. And up till just recently, the Fiji Airways was helping with the domestic aviation. And that's now turned into some opportunities to fly internationally with the Tongan airline. So, and that's the type of regional cooperation we're talking about. I've been told by Fiji Airways, they're the only airline that's selling Tonga in terms of tourism into Tonga right now. A lot of the other big distribution tourism distributors are not looking at the smaller country. So again, because of our regional connectivity and the regional play that Fiji wants to participate in, we are now helping our neighbors rise. Tonga is a beautiful country. Like I think if now with 7 days a week from the West Coast, you can really develop good tourism packages for Tonga. So hopefully, we'll start connecting up more with all the countries, bring back that regional sort of flavor to aviation. And once we do that, that'll be a big driver in terms of the regional desire to connect everybody up regionally. So these are some of the things that are happening on the investment side. A lot of interest. The investment pipeline at the moment is already about 3 billion. That's projects that are sort of nearing a formative stage. So that's quite exciting. There'll be some major announcements coming soon in terms of investment in Fiji. And so that's exciting because what we need to do is start converting some of these investment pipeline opportunities, and then the economy will start firing up.
Ease of doing business, that's always being talked about, that it's so challenging. What kind of work is going into that?
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple of things that we've done to try and get ease of doing business easier. We set up what's called an investment facilitation committee. It's chaired by myself, and in my absence, the permanent secretary chairs it. But basically, it includes all government agency stakeholders and some private sector participants. And the idea is to just try and, where there's bottlenecks, try and resolve them. So we did that as an immediate step, just to try and react to issues that are happening on the ground because of the ease of doing business issues. But what I've challenged the committee is, longer term, once I tell everybody we don't need to meet, that means that ease of doing business is getting better. Apart from that, at the moment there's a project that's currently being discussed to get underway on the ease of doing business. It will involve the automation of a lot of business processes in the country, and if that progresses well, we'll see more paperless processes happening. You can actually potentially track your so for example, if you look, just requesting for a clearance by the National Fire Authority to, if you starting up a business, you can actually track your that application process on a paperless basis, and like be able to see transparently what's happening. So hopefully with the automation, it'll actually reduce the time required. It'll create more transparency and accountability with the processes, and hopefully that will mean that the whole experience of doing business in Fiji becomes a lot better. So basically the long-term fix is also being addressed, which is to really look at digitizing or automating a lot of these services and requirements.
Digital Fiji was set up by the previous government.
Correct.
A lot of that was being said that we'll go paperless and
Correct, yeah.
things. How you've made an assessment how successful
Yeah.
it is at the moment?
Yeah, the digital, they went through a few stages. So the first stage was really just to try and create a portal of information, so that anybody wanting to invest in Fiji or set up a company in Fiji can actually go to that portal and then see the process. But the next step after that, which is what I'm just looking at now, was the automation of the processes.
That's what a lot of people are saying when they actually thought it is being digitized.
Correct.
The process was being digitized, but then they found out after the first step,
Yeah.
you get that, then you go into the manual.
Correct. Yeah.
Manual process.
Yeah.
again.
So the next step after this is obviously the digitization. That's when you'll really. I'm confident that the people of Fiji will be able to genuinely see the benefit of moving digitally.
You've set a timeline for that?
Yeah, at the moment it's going to be about a 2 to 3 year project that's focusing on just two main areas, and that's to do with construction permits, because like a lot of investors have a lot of issues with construction permits, and the process of starting up a business. So those two are the major bottlenecks in terms of when the World Bank did a survey on Fiji. Those were the two key areas that, because there's a lot of permits that are required. And so at the moment, once we're actually in the process of getting the process started, it's going to be about at least a 24-month process to get those two major things done.
Small businesses also, we get a lot of calls.
Yes.
And questions have come through.
Yeah.
That there's always people are being encouraged to go into small business. Of course, that can be a big engine of growth for the economy. And as you said, that we expect, or the target is to at least put 50% of GDP is contributed by these businesses.
Yeah.
But they're saying when they're starting up, even the buy-in from the banks. For some banks, they expect a minimum deposit of $5,000 when they start off their bank account. Have you been having discussions with the banks?
Yeah, certainly. We've been having some discussions with the banks in terms of making banking easier. I have to say that they have been trying to sort of address some of the issues that have been raised. I think one of the major pain points is even just opening a bank account. There are now some solutions that we are looking at that should make that process faster, because it's about the identification of the individual. So that's another separate project that's going on. But I do have good relationships with all the banks in Fiji. Some of them actually do not have the $5,000 requirement, and it's just a matter of asking the public to look at other banks. Yes, yeah, they have varying requirements. Yeah.
You talked about Fiji Development Bank and its focus, and the questions have been raised in the past, whether FDB in the past, and it's been discussed in Parliament, where it went into giving a huge amount of money, millions of dollars, to a resort development in Nandi, Pullman Resort. And then there was money being given to Fiji Airways. Grace Road initially took some loan from FDB. People are raising concerns about that because they're saying this is to develop agriculture sector and other businesses. Why other people are not being given the opportunity when the chunk of it is going into these projects? And we know that the project in Nandi eventually it had to be sold to recover the resort, and the total money recovered was not the amount loaned out. What is the coalition government looking at in terms of how FDB should be working?
Yeah, I mean, like I think the development bank's task was really to develop the if not the unbanked in the economy, but those who probably wouldn't qualify normally in terms of a normal bank loan. So it's in other words the developmental side of banking. But as like with any business, you have to, in order to actually service the development side, there needs to be some commercial loans as well. And probably in past, there was probably a perception that there was too much going into commercial loans as opposed to loans to farmers, those kind of things. Certainly, in my interactions with the current FDB management, there is a big focus on actually trying to get loans out to SMEs. They've got an online portal at the moment, which cuts down on the processing time. So there are some good initiatives in place now to try and boost borrowing to the SME sector.
You're encouraging the SMEs to look FDB's way.
Like I mean, there's all the banks have certain SME products, but the FDB's one of FDB's focuses now is to actually push the SME sector quite hard.
You're talking about $3 billion in investments coming in soon.
Sure.
There was a lot of talk before when COVID hit that we had all our eggs in one basket, being tourism, and we got badly hit. Our economy got badly hit, and we're still recovering from that. Just in relation to these investments coming in, how diverse are they to ensure that we're diversifying our economy?
I think it's fair to say that in terms of investments, I think tourism will probably still lead the way for the next few years. And that's just because we do it so well. Someone in New Zealand said to me, if you want to slow down your tourism success, you have to become more unfriendly. And that's not going to happen in Fiji. It's everybody's naturally friendly. So what we're trying to do as the ministry is to ensure that whilst tourism will, there's a lot of interest in hotel construction, we also look at other industries. So at the moment there's some good interest in commercial agriculture, in ICT, BPO sector, as well. So these are the kind of other sectors that we're going to try and encourage. We're also trying to encourage the, sort of the construction of a second cable into Fiji. There's some very serious discussions going on at the moment, and the announcements will come soon enough. But I think should that happen, that actually, if we have more than one connection other than the Southern Cross cable into Fiji, it makes Fiji a very attractive location for companies that want to set up data warehousing in Fiji, looking at programming, warehousing kind of centers, centers of excellence.
It opens up a whole
yeah,
lot
so
of opportunities.
and that's the exciting bit. And at the moment, hopefully we can make some announcements soon. But these are the kind of opportunities that we are seeing at the moment in Fiji.
Connecting the unconnected, of
Yeah.
course, there have been issues, long-standing issues in areas like the Northern Division.
Correct.
People are saying that they really have issues with
Yeah.
connectivity, even when they have people who are sick and or who are in trouble,
Yeah.
unable to get connectivity along roads in Vanuatu and different parts of the country as well. What is being done about that?
Yeah, when I got into the ministry, I asked to see there was a plan already to roll out connectivity to the 5%, if you like it. But when I looked at the plan, I felt that we probably needed to have another relook, because I felt that it would be better if we have a plan that looks at the rollout by province, so that that way when a province gets done, you'll know very quickly whether there's been an improvement in the connectivity, because the other plan is seem to be a bit picking on various places in the country. So we're looking at that plan at the moment. I'm just getting feedback from stakeholders on the ground. Once that happens, we will formalize the locations again and then roll that out. So hopefully in the next, say, 3 months, we should have a plan. The other thing to Vijay is we have always been collecting money through the telcos to use for the rollout.
How much do you have in there?
It's not a bad amount of money. It's over 10 million in that account. So that's the money that we will use to initially implement connecting the unconnected, and hopefully on the back of that, we can convince the other telecommunication partners to relook at some of the areas. So, and I think that's been a bit of an issue for them. Is like, we've been giving money to government, but it's not being used yet. So now that it will be used, it will certainly, I'm hoping it will create a better footprint for communications in Fiji.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Why are we playing outside?
Because my dad is thinking my home is going to be super cool.
No way!
Yeah, he makes me a new desk.
Whoa, then we can stay together.
He's also going to paint my walls.
Where did he get this tooth from?
Kasabia's there for everything you need.
I wish my dad could do that.
Because your dad is not Kasabia's dad.
Dad, go to Kasabi's!
Bula Vinaka, we are Dauntless Movement Crew here from Australia, and we are so excited to perform for you guys for the Fiji Showcase in 2023.
Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong, and already be leaving till we see in the sun. Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong, and already be leaving till we see in the sun. We bring it like this, we bring it like that. We bring it to the party like we all that. Yeah, we got a party here, that's right. We bring it like this, we bring it like that. We bring it to the party like we all that. Yeah, sound is hot, that's right. Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong.
It's going to be awesome. So come on down with your family and friends. We'll be at the Vodafone Arena in Suva from the 30th of June to the 8th of July. See you there.
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan in our studio tonight, which is outside our regular studio. We are here at Civic Towers and speaking to the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Trade, Cooperatives, SMEs and Communications, Manoa Kamikamica. Mr. Kamikamica, you recently chaired the coalition government party talks where a lot was discussed, and this was in relation to Sodelpa raising a few issues publicly about being disappointed with how things were heading, and it required a discussion to be held, and you chaired the discussion with the three parties' representatives involved at the People's Alliance headquarters. What were the main issues discussed?
Yes, certainly. I mean, I think Vijay, the discussions was very timely. I think 6 months into government, and to be fair, everybody's been very busy, and some of the machineries probably that should have been in place were not being addressed quite well, and I'm partly responsible for it because I'm one of the main coordinators. So there was a very good discussion. I think we all agreed at the end of the day we are very committed to the coalition, and we want to make sure that we all there at the end of this term. That's certainly the sentiments raised across the three parties. I think one of the key outcomes was just the need to probably communicate a bit better. We are, certainly in terms of the boards, appointments are being made, but we have, we hadn't quite formally circled that back to the parties, and so that's an area of improvement that we definitely need to work on. With the High Commission appointments, that was noted. That's being under process at the moment. So hopefully there'll be some announcements on the High Commissioners soon. So those were the two key things. But I think collectively as a group, it was a good opportunity to have a good open discussion and just express concerns and centered around just making sure the partnership works together well. I have to say that beyond the machinery to ensure that our supporters know what's happening, the ministers as a cabinet are working very well together, and then you can see the amount of things being achieved, the GCC, the reform, like the discussions around the reform of education, these are the type of issues that are coming through, the local government elections. These are all being channeled through very well in the current cabinet. Everybody's working hard and working together well. So I think overall, Vijay, I think the coalition is in a very good place, and like any relationship or partnership, we need to now and again just remind each other on on certain things, and really good discussion, I thought, and if anything, I think going forward, the things will will just lift to another level after.
There was a level of uncertainty amongst members of the public, and rightly so, in relation to the comments that were coming through, and People's Alliance and NFP addressing also that we are working together. And the other issue discussed was communication.
Yes.
How will you handle that better?
Yeah, sometimes the easiest thing is the thing that's neglected, and I've certainly been working on certain things to make sure for the partnership, which is around the board selection, but we were not communicating that well enough to the partners. So that was, I took that on as something that we need to do better, and we'll certainly make sure that's communicated better. We are in the main honoring the partnership in terms of the board selections, but again, if you understand the exercise to get the board selected, there was an advertisement out in the papers, and then there had to be a screening of all the applicants, and then once that's done, then we went through the selection process. So it's quite a lengthy process, but again, some of these things just need to be communicated better. But like I said, everybody's committed to making the relationship work.
And you have certain percentages that are confirmed amongst the coalition to have the board
Correct.
Positions and the ambassador and high commissioner
Yeah,
positions.
so the agreement had some of that specified. So that's what we're trying to make sure that we work to and communicate back to the partners so that they're aware. Yeah.
Are they negotiable if you believe that?
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, that was what we agreed to stitch the coalition together. So they're commitments from our side. I mean, certainly, the partners have been trying to make good on the commitments. Yeah.
Now, some of the questions have been raised about board appointments.
Yes.
That, there's more males that are being appointed, and groups are raising concerns about that.
Yeah.
Some are saying that we need a younger blood to come in to energize the boards and to give it a new direction, different direction. Are you struggling with that at the moment?
Yeah, no, because we had an expression of interest process. We've tried to ensure that the bulk of the boards actually have a balanced representation, and I think some people are just picking on some boards. What we're going to try and do is actually, once the selection is completed, to just give the stats on the demographics, the representation, the amount of the gender representation on the boards. So just to sort of give some flavor, but certainly the way the process has been handled, we've tried to ensure that there's been a bit of a balance in terms of representation by women, professions. So like on the boards, we've tried to have an accountant, a lawyer, those kind of things we've tried to bake into the board selections.
The best of the best.
Yeah, like based on the expression of interest, and of course taking into account the nominees from the parties.
Because you have to also balance it off with the agreement.
Correct.
As part of the coalition.
And just on that,
bound by that.
Yeah, and of course on that, Vijay, amongst the three parties, that was something that we discussed as well. Like the understanding that when we nominate people on boards, they need to be qualified to get on those boards. So there's a collective understanding as well between the three parties that's important.
Not just taking up party supporters.
Yeah. Sort of just making sure that we, the boards as the nominees can do the job on those boards. Yeah.
As Deputy Prime Minister, you would also have been watching some comments about permanent secretaries, recent appointments, issue being raised about racism.
Sure.
Although the current lineup of permanent secretaries does not just have one Indo-Fijian, there's others who are permanent secretaries. What is the stand of the government?
Yeah, no, I think I'm really hoping that the Prime Minister and the civil service will, come out and just explain the process. There's been, as far as I'm aware, certainly I can talk for myself, zero influence by the political side. He was a professionally run. It was actually run through KPMG, I believe, the interview process, and so the members of the commission, chaired by Mr. Luka Rokowanda, are very professional people. So they actually did all the recommendations, the screening, and then just provided it to the Honorable Prime Minister for concurrence. So the process, there was a process in place. So I do respect the views about gender representation, the mix in terms of ethnicity. But I think at the end of the day, I think we'll all agree we need to make sure we have the right people in those jobs. And so.
What do you have to say to the people watching who are feeling uneasy? Maybe these coalition government is doing that.
I think be assured that the process is being undertaken professionally without any undue influence. I think the independence of selection is important, and I certainly can vouch for the fact that that is actually how we handle the selections. And the commission was purely tasked with the selection of the candidates. Yeah.
The Fiji First Party General Secretary, after coming out of suspension, spoke recently and made a few comments. He first of all said that Sodelpa should have gone with Fiji First. Fiji First had a better deal for Sodelpa's own longevity. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's a bit rich coming from someone who was trying to destroy Sodelpa from day one. So I'm not sure where those. I'm sure those comments were probably not that genuine, because we all know that he's made life very difficult for Sodelpa from its formative stages. And I think people of Fiji can judge his comments what they're worth, but certainly, like I said, from our perspective, we are moving on. We are very committed to making the partnership work, and it's working very well actually. And we just need to keep working hard and make sure we deliver for the people of Fiji, because that's what we've been expected to do.
What's your assessment? I mean, Fiji First has been the main opponent going into the last elections.
Yes.
And soon after the elections, we've had the departure of the General Secretary, Ayar Said Kayum, and the leader, Vorenge Panimarama. And then the party got suspended with uncertainty that they may not be in Parliament if Parliament set this week. What is your comments on the assessments that you're making about the Fiji First, and also on the audited accounts when there's an issue of insolvency?
Yeah. Firstly, on I think the issue about deserting their party is best left to the General Secretary and the former Prime Minister, Honorable Bainimarama, to address. All you've done, they've left, the bulk of their supporters in the lurch by leaving, and that's for their supporters to decide what quality of leader. As soon as you get out of office, you decide not to participate in mainstream politics.
So they're out of Parliament, but they're saying they're still involved with the party.
Well, that's a bit, they need to be. I was hoping they'd both be in Parliament, so that we can challenge them on some of the decisions they've made. Walesi, wastage, 128 million. We've discovered that we've been paying rebates up to the film rebates, and we owe about 200 million to producers around the world. And actually, Vijay, not only that, that payment that was going out was never in the budget of the people, the actual budget. This year will be the first year when we actually disclose the amount we're paying for the rebates. So, total fraudulent non-disclosure We were hoping they'd be in there so that they can answer in there so that the people of Fiji can really see what they were doing in there. But they were obviously conveniently chosen to leave Parliament and backing from outside. If they were genuine, they should have been in Parliament and where we could have had a good exchange. A lot of us new ones were really relishing the opportunity to have a good debate about what was done to the country for the last 16 years. From where a lot of us sit, there's a lot that's gone wrong. I encourage the people of Fiji to read the fiscal review report. When you read that, you realize how much damage has been done in Fiji and how much challenge is left to this government to try and fix. So, at the end of the day, with due respect to them, I know them both well. Really it's for them to answer why they left Parliament. Certainly, if it was me, and if I lost the elections, I'd still front up in Parliament because, you owe it to the people that have voted you in. And in both their cases, there was quite I think about 70% probably of the vote came from both of them. So it's quite a significant number. In terms of the Fiji First financial accounts, I'd say the word to use is embarrassing. They've just been in government, they've just left government, and their accounts is saying that they're insolvent technically. They owe about 1.6 million to various suppliers. Fiji First saw it in their right mind to actually spend a lot more than they earned. And it's probably a reflection on how they manage the economy as well. You cannot, if you're running a political party, you can't go around spending money that you don't have. Because as they've discovered, as soon as they're no longer in power, the donor funding dries up as well. And so, it'll be interesting to see how they're going to pay the 1 million or so 1.6 million that they owed. They've got 200,000 plus about 300,000 in assets. But, there's about $1 million exposure that they need to pay. And, if they were financially disciplined, this would not have happened. I have to say that it's really just a reflection of what's been happening in the economy. The lack of attention to detail, the lack of financial discipline. And, it's now the people of Fiji can, if you go to the website for the elections office, you can have a read of the report. It's interesting, Vijay. I think to be honest, out of the audit opinions for the audits, I think the Fiji First is the one that's got a going concern qualification. So it's saying they are insolvent. They make these assurances that they're going to find money to pay it off.
Pay in installments.
Yeah, or paid installments.
And get more donations.
Yeah, but that's a theoretical sort of discussion. We'll see what happens in the next 12 months because it's just irresponsible. You're spending more than what you earn.
You're saying it's a very bad example of a party that ran government for many years in Fiji?
Absolutely. I mean, there should be an example to everybody. This is why the people of Fiji should be thankful. We have genuine democracy in place. Nobody is going around actively trying to pressure their suppliers to winding up notice on these guys, they'll be in trouble. I think they probably thought that they could hide this through just by sneaking this through. But this is a testament of a party that's been in power for 16 years, should be well equipped to manage basic accounting for a political party, and they haven't in just 1 year. Just 1 year.
I know you won't get a challenge that you wanted in Parliament.
Sure.
Ayaz Said Kayum across the
Sure.
floor from you.
Sure.
But what if we get Ayaz Said Kayum across the table with you on Straight Talk? If we invite, would you be game to come on?
Yeah, no, I respect him for what he's done in his life, but I think there's some big questions that the people of Fiji would like to know answers to. I harp about Walesi a lot because it's under my ministry, but how can you outlay 128 million without any due diligence process, no business case? Any right-minded business person will tell you, before you spend any money, you need to see whether you can be able to recoup that money. Vijay, at the moment, the money is out the door, and now we're talking about how we're going to charge the people, the subscribers to the people, the companies that are on Walesi. So back to front, and any other business, if you did that as a CFO, you would get a nice boot out the door.
We'll talk about Walesi after the break.
Yeah.
But Mr. Kamikamica, the Deputy Prime Minister, confirming that he's ready to come on a straight talk and debate issues with the Fiji First General Secretary, Ayaz Said Kayum, and we'll try to set that up, see if he's keen to come on the show, and we will definitely have that well publicized if that is confirmed in the next few weeks. After this break, we'll be talking about Walesi and other issues.
Why are we playing outside?
Because my dad is thinking my home is gonna be super cool.
No way!
Yeah, he makes me a new desk.
Whoa, then we can stay together.
He's also gonna paint my walls.
Where did he get this tooth from?
Kasabia's there for everything you need.
I wish my dad could do that.
Because your dad is not Kasabia's dad.
Dad, go to Kasabi's!
Bula Vinaka, we are Dauntless Movement crew here from Australia, and we are so excited to perform for you guys for the Fiji Showcase in 2023.
Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong, and already be leaving till we see in the sun. Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong, and already be leaving till we see in the sun. We bring it like this, we bring it like that. We bring it to the party like we all that. Yeah, we got a party here, that's right. We bring it like this, we bring it like that. We bring it to the party like we all that. Yeah, sound is hot, that's right. Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong.
It's gonna be awesome. So come on down with your family and friends. We'll be at the Vodafone Arena in Suva from the 30th of June to the 8th of July. See you there!
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight is the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Trade, Cooperatives, SMEs and Communications, Mr. Manoa Kamikamica. Mr. Kamikamica, let's talk about some of the investigations and audits that are underway. Yeah. We know a lot of audit reports are pending, have not gone into Parliament. Millions of dollars have been spent. Backlog of audit reports, which resulted in this government, when it came in, saying that certain investigations have to be carried out. We want to know the facts about Walesi. What's happening with Walesi and the investigation that's underway.
I think, to be fair, Vijay, because of the, just doing lots of other things as I explained, the investigation is still ongoing. What we are hoping to do is actually do apart from looking at the technical aspects of Walesi, like just to give you an example, the boxes, the Walesi boxes that are used for Walesi, I'm told there's quite a bit of stock still left over with those boxes. And on top of that, the new TV screens have their own transmitters in there that could have been used. So like there's a bit of a technical due diligence that needs to happen. So we're reaching out to some potential multilateral partners to do a review of that. In terms of the financial due diligence, we're collecting the information for that, and what it will involve is a deep look into the procurement, how procurement was done, those kind of things. So the process is still ongoing, and once that's all completed, it'll be done fairly. It's not going to be done with an end point in mind. But, like the people of Fiji are entitled to know. And probably what I'd like to understand is how much would it cost if it was done properly, or whether it should have been done at all. Because in reality what's happened is the stakeholders were forced onto the platform. There was zero consultation. As again, no business case done on the actual amount spent. But still a bit to do there at the moment.
The TV stations, some of the TV stations had their own infrastructure,
exactly.
Already set up, transmission infrastructure.
Correct.
And they had to let go of that and go on to Walesi.
Yeah.
Are you looking at those issues? It seems like some of the TV stations have nowhere else to go now because they had to leave due to uncertainty, leave their own infrastructure.
Correct.
To rust and not be used.
Yeah, I know Fiji TV wrote off a couple of million, I think, in terms of to get to transition. So, whatever the outcome is, we need to take that into account. Obviously, because there's a dependency on Walesi now. That whole investigation process will take account as well of the way forward in terms of what we need to do. So it's going to be an in-depth look at Walesi with a view to try and make sure that the services are maintained, but how it looks after that will be interesting. I mean, I was jokingly telling somebody, if someone someone came and offered money to take it off the government, you'd certainly seriously look at that. Because one of the lessons I've learned very quickly, Vijay, is some things government shouldn't be involved in, particularly when it comes to private sector driven things. Because it's just a different kind of lens they look at things under.
And some things like media, government should not be controlling transmission.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but the previous governments encumbered the people of Fiji with this asset. So it's our responsibility to make sure whatever the outcome is that we can maintain the services. Yeah.
How much of taxpayers' money was spent through Walesi?
128 million to date. Yeah.
128 million.
Yeah.
And
it's probably 2 or 3 hospitals. Yeah.
And the other players, the players that are on, because the Walesi law that came out,
correct,
it was clear that the minister will decide on the fee per channel later.
Yeah.
So right now, the TV players that are on, and FBC has got both television and radio channels on Walesi, they are not paying anything at all.
Correct. Yeah. At the moment, the charge aspect of it is on hold, because again we need to relook at the whole set up before any conversation happens on that front. Because at the moment we've advised all the players that at the moment there's no discussion about fees, but once the investigation is done, then that will be addressed.
There was a worry, I know the broadcasters were worried. They're going into something not knowing what the fee would be.
Yeah, so totally counterintuitive to private sector, how you do things in private sector. When you invest in something, you know exactly what return you're going to make, how much it's going to cost you, But because, it was totally done really in a dictatorial manner, you sign up or you lose your license. That's really what the conversation was happening with all those operators. So no choice really, unfortunately. And so the right thing to do is actually for government to fully understand what's happening in Walesi, and after that then make decisions around how do we move forward.
Which is fair to all.
Yes, correct.
You also are looking at other investigations. Grace Road is one investigation. Just people wanted to know where it's going. An assessment on them taking the FDB loan initially. Now we understand that it was refinanced with another bank. And the fact that they are now almost Fiji-wide, and the opportunities that they have brought, but the opportunities that the locals may have lost through this. What is the assessment and how is the investigation going?
In terms of Grace Road, I've tried to be very, very careful in terms of how we handle Grace Road. So if you notice, I've actually basically had zero media conversations about it, because I think it's important that for business confidence and stability, that whilst the investigation is happening, we don't create any uncertainties. Because of Vijay, the last thing we need is a perception to build that government will just go around investigating every business that's around. So what I can say is the investigation is ongoing. We will at the right time make the appropriate announcement. At the moment that's really the where we at the moment in terms of the whole discussion around Grace Road.
My final question, one of the things about wastage, pilferage, mismanagement, figures that have been quoted in the past by the former Reserve Bank of Fiji Governor Savinathan Narumbe said could be as high as $1 billion. We're going into this new budget. How much of it has the coalition team managed to assess that this is wastage, we can spend money elsewhere, not here, and how much work has gone into that?
I think, to be fair, it's really the Minister of Finance's area. So I'm sure he'll address that when, either at budget time or earlier. So I can only just talk about my ministry. What I've tried to do is really look at, for example, Walesi's budget used to be about 13 million. I've just stopped all the capital expenditure works for now. So it's around about 8 at the moment. So that's just as a measure to wastage, because until we know what we want to do with Walesi and do a proper evaluation on the technical capabilities, that's the kind of example. That's just one example of what I tried to do in our ministry, and I'm sure the other ministers have done the same. Looked at expenditure, where we in my ministry, we don't spend much money anyway, because we're more a facilitating arm. But certainly we've had a look at the areas where we can do things better. So in an overall sense, I think the Minister of Finance can explain in detail what's happened in terms of the wastage. But certainly in terms of our individual areas, I've had a look as well to try and plug holes where we can. And one of the glaring ones was Walesi, and going forward, there'll be. I'm sure the Minister of Finance will give you the details. Yeah.
Mr. Kamikamica, thank you very much for appearing on our show this evening. That's the show for tonight. Until next week, have a good evening.
We are Dauntless Movement crew here from Australia, and we are so excited to perform for you guys for the Fiji Showcase in 2023.
Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong, and already be leaving till we're seeing the sun. Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong, and already be leaving till we're seeing the sun. We bring it like this, we bring it like that. We bring it to the party like we all that. Yeah, we got a party here, that's right. We bring it like this, we bring it like that. We bring it to the party like we all that. Yeah, sound is hot, that's right. Move over, cause here we come. We got a party that's kicking like all night long. We got 10 drinks like extra strong.
It's going to be awesome. So come on down with your family and friends. We'll be at the Vodafone Arena in Suva from the 30th of June to the 8th of July. See you there!
Woo!